Oh boy.
All right, fantastic. So I have with us today Shawnee Kelly, who is the assistant teaching professor and coordinator of the Master's in Professional Studies and Nutritional Sciences at Penn State World Campus. And we have had her on our site before. She's a huge wealth of information about dietetics, about the dietetic profession, about educating dietitians and dietitians to be. And today we're going to be talking about leadership and how we can improve and develop our leadership skills and how Penn State plays a really big role in that. Welcome, Shawnee.
Thank you, Stacy.
Great to have you here with us again. So, leadership, when we talk about leadership, it's often something that dietetic students, dietetic interns, and dietitians are thinking about, knowing that they need to improve their skills, that those skills need to be somewhere situated on their either LinkedIn profile or on their resume. Having a whole section for skills, leadership skills is important. We know that there's a lot of skills out there, and we'll highlight some of those as well. But tell me from your perspective, what are some great examples of leadership skills for dietitians?
Sure, that's a great question, and I think there are many. I appreciate so many different leadership skills, and I think it's hard to have them all. But one of the things that really comes up a lot when I'm teaching students leadership, and they actually teach me a lot too, is the empathy is a big one.
Oh, right, right.
We're people who like to help others no matter what we're doing. So I think that's a natural trait for so many of us, but something we can always improve upon. So working with patients, I work with students. I mean, that empathy is really, really important as a dietitian. And that one always rises to the top when the students are discussing leadership. It seems like to be a strong one that they are very natural at and or recognize as something to work on. So
Mm.
that's a big one. As far as leadership that I really think is important over the course of my career is, and it's one you listed as well, is the strategy, like trying to think a little more strategically. And I think that just comes with time and experience too.
Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
you
That's
get to
excellent,
know,
right?
yeah, like it comes with connecting the dots in your field and in our field of nutrition and dietetics, and really getting that context of your whole field, not just in your bubble or your workplace, but really trying to think strategically, as that may pertain to your context or your organization within nutrition and dietetics. As an educator, I try to think that way when we are working on our program or trying to, develop it further, add to it, grow it. What do dietitians need for the future? And the Master's of Professional Studies is so much practice oriented and skill based that's something we're always trying. That's a way in which we're always trying to think what's needed for the future. And that's, I think, part of what strategic thinking is.
I like that you said not just strategy, not just thinking about strategy, but the whole idea of strategic thinking and sort of pulling all together, understanding the needs, like you said, being empathetic for with the employees, with coworkers, collaborators,
Mhm.
but also sort of looking at this bigger picture. Where have we been? Where do we need to go? And then sort of working
Mhm.
then backwards and
Mhm.
creating a plan based on that. But you're right, some of it
Yeah.
comes from experience, some of it's a talent, some of it's a
Mhm.
skill that's gained. So that's good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I really value that.
How do you think then that dietitians can get more leadership skills in the workplace? Let's say they're already that maybe they
Mhm.
don't have a leadership role, they're not a manager, they're not overseeing too many people, or if they are, it's not a significant part of their job, but they
Mhm.
want to move up. They want to
Mhm.
promote themselves, have other people promote them. How can they in the workforce develop those leadership skills,
Mhm.
do you
It's a
think?
really good question too, and I think so important for dietitians at any level. In the program, we talk, especially in our leadership courses, about leading in any capacity, leadership without authority or leadership without power. Some people say
Mm.
that's where I think that's where dietitians start, and that may be the position that you're always in. Leadership doesn't always equal power or authority, but just taking a lead. One of the things we want our students to be able to feel confident doing when they get out into the workforce right out of the graduate degree is to feel confident to speak up for a change.
Oh,
In my
that's
graduate degree, I
awesome.
learned
Yes.
best practices in enteral nutrition and nutrition support. And I stepped into this new role at my healthcare system. And I noticed that we could be doing something a little bit differently or a little bit more evidence-based? How could I help advocate for that change in a, delicate, sensitive, yet informative way? So that's leadership, just advocating for a small policy change, even sitting
I
on a
like that.
committee.
I love that word, the advocate. Like that's a really
Mhm.
great, like on a resume, I can imagine also, like how would that come up? Obviously you didn't have the job title and maybe it wasn't even a gigantic project you worked on where you can pull it out separate from your resume where you want to like have a whole section called
Mhm.
leadership. But as a bullet point on the resume, using that action verb at the beginning, the advocate, like
Mhm.
that's a really strong, that's fantastic. That's good.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's anything you can show a measurable change or a measurable outcome to, for the resume's sake, that's good. I mean, but any committee work, if your
Ladies,
boss says
yes.
and your clinical nutrition manager says, hey, we have this quality improvement committee and we need an RD for it, would you sit on it? Those are great projects to get involved with and collaborate with other healthcare team members. And I think those are the ways in which you start to learn so much about that context, more than just your role, and start to learn the profession and contribute. And then you stand out and you
I
learn
like that.
skills that
Right.
way.
And you kind of practice. You get to practice
Mm-hmm.
what it feels like to use your voice in a room with everybody staring at you. That's a new thing when they're not your peers. If it's somebody different levels, in a hospital setting or in a business setting, you sort of get
Mm-hmm.
that practice and then you can get more comfortable and move forward. So that's good. I like that.
Yeah, great.
Um, Here's sort of an obvious question, but I'll just love to get your perspective on this. Like, how do you think that leadership skills on your resume or in your speech can set you apart from others to advance a career, to move on to the next thing? Again, I just be so curious to know like what your perspective is on that, how that can set somebody apart from someone else.
Leadership skills and communication. Is that what you mean?
Just yeah, in general, like why, I guess it's sort of backing up, like why
Mm-hmm.
do we even care about having leadership skills? Like how
Okay.
does it, no, that's fine. How does it impact our success, or how does it
Mm-hmm.
impact our ability to be promoted? And in,
Mm.
the next big thing is how does leadership help us make more money as a dietitian,
Mm-hmm.
essentially?
Yeah, I think leadership, being that it can come in so many forms, with or without power or authority, it helps you develop the skills that are, the soft skills, the communication, the written, the oral, just the way in which you speak professionally. There's so many things in the early part of your career that you have learned and but you may not know the most appropriate way to convey them to those above you, that may be looking at you for promotion or something like that. So I think that's one of the big things is leadership is they're small things. They're being able to communicate well. They're being able to speak intelligently, put your thoughts into words, being able to, empower others around you, just your fellow dietitian or your fellow dietetic intern, having empathy for others. Those small traits, when you start to work on all of them, you start to become a leader, in my opinion,
Oh, I love
um,
that.
in your
Yeah. Yes.
workplace or your school program or your volunteer position. And when you can start to feel confident to use your own voice, then you, I think, become heard more, and you can inspire change that way too among other people. So I don't know, it's a long answer, but I think it's just personally important. Like you have to be a leader of yourself
Mm,
first, and then
right.
you
Right.
become ready for those other advancements in your career, and start to help lead others.
And I like the idea that, the cliche that, a rising tide lifts all boats, that as more dietitians feel comfortable with leadership skills, whether it's for your, personal self or for promotion in mind, it elevates
Mhm.
all dietitians eventually,
Mhm. And I think
whether
that
it's
our field is one that we really need that. There's just so many people that don't quite understand what we do.
I know, right.
In
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
settings, not just in clinical or otherwise. So we have to be the advocate of ourselves and the leader of ourselves to help elevate that. And if we can all work towards that, we can improve the profession. A lot of my students think that out in the field, when they get out there, no one's going to understand what they do. And the nurses don't understand exactly what they do, or the doctors don't. And I said, you have to fix that. It's on all of us to fix that.
It's our personal responsibility.
Yeah, it's our personal. I don't mean you. It's, I should say,
right.
we need to fix that.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that's always the case, but you know, we have to, you know, market ourselves a little bit better and have a louder, stronger, you know, evidence-based voice, and you know, it all helps us rise up, I think.
I love that. That's great. So then, in your role at Penn State online campus, there is a leadership development component to the master's program. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What that looks like?
Sure. Our curriculum does have a leadership emphasis, and what that means out of 30 credits is you have 2 courses in leadership, starting with an intro leadership course and then a more advanced one later on down the line. And as well, though, all of our courses really integrate themes of leadership throughout. You know, our mission is really to advance practice and give students the skills to do that, in whether it be clinical or outpatient counseling or nutrition education or wherever it may be. So we really do thread it throughout, but we start students really just self-reflecting. The first leadership course is so much about learn about yourself as a leader, if you haven't, and people come with varying degrees of having already done some of those things. But learn about yourself and then build on your strengths. We do a lot with the Strength Finder assessment tool. We do just simple exercises like Myers-Briggs, learning how to do a SWOT analysis. I try to do a SWOT analysis like for my personal self every couple of years, you know, to just try to see where I can improve and give them the tools to do that, to start to grow as a leader. And then we put that into the context of the nutrition and dietetics profession, especially as they move into the second leadership course. And all of it really is to, along with the didactic other coursework in the program, is to help them prepare for their capstone project, and then to help them prepare for the workforce to, like I said earlier, have that confidence to promote change, advocate for change, you know, better practices, advance the profession, that kind of thing. And we think the culminating experience of the capstone project is really what will you know, help them stand out to their employer. If they're in an employed setting at that time, they can select their own capstone project to make a difference in their workplace, solve a problem, improve a process or a policy, create a new educational program, something that's going to improve patient outcomes or improve processes for efficiency at their healthcare system or their setting. So that's really what they're working towards in the program, but all of it to say that we want them to feel that confidence coming out, that they know themselves as a leader. They may not be the most experienced leader, but they know themselves more as a leader and can build on it from there. Right.
And identify with that, having the tools behind them and that practice, feeling like a leader and saying that they're a leader. That's fantastic.
And I think sometimes just putting the words to it, you know, one of the things that always strikes me, I teach the intro leadership course and Dr. Pizzalia teaches the more advanced one at this point. And anyways, one of the things in the course we do with the Strength Finders assessment, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is just have them do it and have them figure out what their top strengths are. And so many of them will reflect on that and write and say, you know, when I read the description of what an empathetic person is, I just never knew that was the word, or I just never had know, a motivator, all the different strengths that they all have different ones, you know, they'll say, I just never could really put into words about myself what that was. But when I read it, I was like, oh, I can describe myself this way now. When someone actually says, well, what are your strengths?
What are your strengths? Exactly. That's part of your professional story. Yeah. And you can give a label. Yeah, exactly. And then that can go right on to the resume, whether it's under your professional summary or into a specific work experience, or that they can say, and they can quantify it. They can back it up and say.
It sounds like a small thing, but it's like you kind of know these things about yourself, but you don't really know a way to put it or share it with others, or you don't think it's that important or relevant, but if those are your strengths, they are. And we encourage them, they do an e-portfolio in our program, and we encourage them to put those types of outcomes on their Strength Finders in there, and, you know, to kind of promote themselves with it.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, Shawnee, thank you so much. This was so juicy and informative, and just really, really fun conversation about leadership and getting dietitians to get more leadership skills and to understand how to do that. So I
Well, there is
totally
one more
appreciate
thing,
it.
if I could quick mention it,
Yes,
that I
yes.
didn't, and I would be ashamed to say if I didn't, but it just, I love these conversations, they go so quick. For dietitians outside of the workplace, volunteer with your local dietetic association.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Your
No
local
matter what your
chapter,
level,
your
right? Doesn't
state
matter what your level.
chapter,
Have
Academy of
that.
Nutrition and Dietetics, there's Aspen chapters.
Yes.
So those, I mean, my world
Practice
just went,
groups. Yeah.
I learned so much when I started, like, almost 10, probably 10 years ago, really getting involved on boards and things like that. I can't say enough for that. I don't think I'll ever not volunteer. So if and when anyone has time, even as a student, jump on the board as a student member. Oh, it's the best.
And it's
It
a
is
great
so
way to meet
gratifying.
people too.
Network,
dietitians.
yeah, the network has to grow, and that's one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's fantastic.
That's all.
Anything else? Any other pearls?
Probably on my notes here, but those are the big ones.
Well, thank you for all of your really fabulous insights.
Of course. Thanks, Stacy.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.